Hello my friends, my name is Kayla from Chromatic Creations, and today we will be trying something a little bit new. That's right, you guys. I'm sure you read the title. We are going to be attempting to hand dye some yarn. Now, I have had this yarn for a couple of months now, and it was gifted to me from a friend, and I am not absolutely in love with the colorway. I think it could be better. And I have a sweater's quantity worth, and that's not something I just want to get rid of. I want to use it for something. So I think we're gonna dye it. I have never dyed yarn before. Nope. In fact, I didn't even know how to dye yarn until this morning when I was down a rabbit hole on YouTube. Let me show you this yarn. It is 3 cakes of this mandala by Lion brand in the colorway Pixie. It's just really not my favorite. I actually did attempt to make, I started a granny square raglan, and I'm not in love with these colors together, and I think the reason why is because between the colors there's like brown and gray, and they're just very, very vibrant, and I don't love them. I don't. It's not me. It's not my vibe, but I love this brand of yarn. It is 100% acrylic. It is a 3-weight, and it is soft. I'm actually wearing this yarn right now in this raglan sweater that I made. I really enjoy this yarn. I really enjoy this yarn, and I want to find a way to use this, and I think hand dyeing some yarn sounds like so much fun right now. A little science experiment in the kitchen. Honestly, sounds like a great time. I have a couple of things I need to do before we can hop right in, and the first step is to hank up the balls of yarn, and I actually already did that with one of the balls. I turned it into 2 hanks, and as you can see, these are from the same ball of yarn. It's just like, they don't look related. Like, this is just a crazy colorway, and you know what? It might be somebody's vibe, but it's just not mine. Like, I love cooler tones, I love darker colors, I love greens and blues and purples. It's just not me. So I need to turn the rest of these into hanks, and the reason I already did these ones is because I just needed to make sure it was possible before I even started filming the video. I have a yarn swift downstairs, and I'm basically reversing the process of turning a hank into a cake. So I'm taking a cake into a hank, and it's working. I've made 2 so far. I am not the best hank maker. I don't even know how it's like properly done, but I'm trying my best and it works. So we need to hank up all of these yarns, and today I am gonna go to the store. We need to buy our dye. I will be using the RIT synthetic dye. This dye is made to color synthetic fibers like acrylic. And I've heard online it's really hard to dye acrylic yarn. I'm gonna try it anyways. Like, I don't really have a lot to lose. Worst comes to worst, we have to dye it black. I have black yarn. Make a black sweater. It's not the end of the world. But I think I'm going to either attempt to make it blue or purple. I think like a dark blue would cover up a lot of this. And if it turns a little bit brown, I'm okay with blue and brown. So I think that's kind of my thought process right now. I'm actually really curious to see how the dye interacts with this pre-dyed yarn, because it already has a lot of color on it. So I'm really curious. It's a science experiment. We're doing something new. We're experimenting. We're doing it. So I am going to hank up the yarn. I'm gonna go buy some dye, go to Walmart and buy some disposable stuff. Like, I'm not gonna invest in a whole bunch of quality yarn dyeing supplies when I've never even done it before. So I'm just gonna get like those tinfoil tins, because we're gonna do like a shallow dye, I guess, over like the stove burners. I really don't know. I really don't know what I'm doing, but who knows? This might be a failed experiment, whatever. So let's go hank up some yarn. Alrighty, here's my yarn winding setup. This is the only surface in my house that I can actually put the yarn swift on, but it works fine. I need to frog this because I need to get to the end. So I'm gonna frog this real quick, and then we will make some hanks. Okay, I'm like squatting down really weird, but now that I have a end, what I'm going to do is we're going to open this bad boy up about there. Looks good. And I am just going to tuck this in between the wood slats so that way I can find it later once we are all wound up. And from here, I just get to do this over and over and over again until all of our yarn is on the Swift. And it takes a minute, but it works. Okay, I have wound up about half of this ball here, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna find where my end is. It should be tucked away somewhere. Actually, right there, how perfect. And I'm gonna snip, and I'm just going to pull my end out through the bottom. And I'm gonna show you how I am going to tie up this hank. So I have some extra scrap yarn that is just from, it's all tangled up, it's from the same hank. And I'm gonna cut a couple of pieces off it. Something like this. And we are going to butterfly the yarn. Not like butterflying a chicken breast. This is a little different. I am just going to begin sectioning off different parts of the yarn. And this is to keep it from not getting tangled. So if you've ever bought a hank of yarn and unwound it, you know there are typically a couple of these throughout the hank. Thankfully, with my experience working at a local yarn shop, I've never skeined up yarn, but I have unhanked a lot of yarn. So I do have a good bit of experience handling this kind of stuff. I'm just doing it, I guess, in reverse order, which is a little bit different. So I am tying these two ends onto this, I'm just gonna call it a butterfly string, but that way our yarn is not going to get super duper tangled up. And I'm gonna do that 4 times. Now, like I said before, I don't know if this is the correct way of doing it. This is just what I am doing, and I will let you know if it works for me or not. It seems like it's gonna do the job, so I'm not super worried. And from here, I am just going to hang on to my hank, pull it as I am closing the Swift. All right, here is our yarn. And from here, we are going to knead it in a hank. So let's get it straight. It does not have to be perfect because I will be taking these out of the hank once I start the dyeing process. And I have no idea how to hank yarn. I just know what hanked yarn is, and it's just twisted a lot. So I'm just gonna twist the yarn a lot. And hopefully make some type of hank in the process. Okay. Here we go. Is it perfect? No, but it's just going to keep it from getting all twisted up before we are ready to use it. So I'm going to make a couple more hanks and then we will start the next step. Okay guys, sorry about the weird lighting. It's like 5 p.m, but I really want to do this today. Don't know why I got the hankering to do this today, but I did. I changed shirts because I live streamed and it was really warm. So we're in this shirt. And honestly, I should probably change because I don't want to get dye on this shirt. So I'm gonna change again. But I wanted to show you guys. We have 6 hanks of yarn. These are all from the same cake. They're wildly different. That's what we're going to be attempting to dye today. I did go to the store. I'll show you the supplies. I will be using this disposable aluminum tin to dye the yarn in. I bought a pair of gloves, latex gloves. These are like big, thick kitchen gloves. I don't care, they were cheap. Got some plastic cups from lunch, disposable. We can mix our dye in there. And I got 2 colors. We got a dark and a light blue. It's not really light, it's called sapphire blue. I think these colors are gonna cover up the yarn it's already dyed, okay? So we're gonna use these colors. I've never done this before. This is an experiment. I don't know what I'm doing. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna have 2 different pans, so 3 hanks in each pan, and I'm going to, I guess, evenly put the dye in there with water and have it on heat I'm gonna change. We actually need to soak our yarn. We need to soak it in tap water for at least 30 minutes. So I'm gonna change and we're gonna soak our yarn for 30 minutes to get it wet so it's ready to dye. Okay, welcome to my bathroom. I have a big blue tub and I filled it up in the bathtub because I'm like, oh, this will fill up really fast. But now it's too heavy to lift out. So we're just gonna soak it in the bathtub. I'm gonna take these out of their like hank format into just like the big rounds. I don't know if that's, I don't know. And we're gonna soak it for 30 minutes. And I just wanna say, I know it looks like I'm wearing a nice shirt, but this shirt is already stained, so I'm not really worried about it. But we're just gonna take it out of here. Oh, try not to make a mess. It's already making a mess. We're just going to you want it pre-soaked because the wetter it is, the more likely it is to accept the dye. At least that's how it works in my brain. I don't know if that's true or not. If you are a professional yarn dyer, don't come at me. But please leave a tip in the comments. Okay. And we're just gonna put all of them in there at once. Hopefully they don't get tangled with each other. But I think where I tied them, I butterfly tied them, I think we'll be okay. All right, our yarn soup here is gonna sit for 30 minutes. And while we do this, I'm gonna go clean up the kitchen a little bit because it's messy. Like I said, I did not plan for this whatsoever. I just decided now is the time. And I think we're going to maybe pre-mix some of our dye. Guess we'll see. Okay, the yarn has been soaking for 30 minutes. We are going to transfer over to our big aluminum pans. Like I said, 3 hanks in each, and then we are going to set them up on the stovetop and get our dyes ready. Now, my pans are a little bit overcrowded, but I don't think it'll be an issue because I'm going to be flipping them and moving them around because I want them fully coated. And I'm gonna put a lot of dye in here. I don't care if I have to rinse it forever to get it all out. I want it dyed. So let's go to the kitchen and prepare our dye. Okay, one thing I know for sure is to dye yarn, we need moisture and heat. So I'm going to keep these on the stovetop. I'm gonna turn all of the burners on low, okay? I don't wanna melt the yarn and I don't wanna melt the aluminum pan. I don't even know if that's possible. We're gonna keep them on low just to maintain heat. And I also have a kettle heating up water as well. So we will be pouring hot water onto these. I want a little bit of water. And we are also going to mix our dyes. I found these little bit bigger cups. And I think we're gonna put like, I don't know, we're just gonna do the same amount in each of them and we're gonna pour it over the yarn. I'm not doing this in any specific way. I hope you guys know that. This is a chaotic experiment. So let's go ahead and mix up some dye. 3 or 4 tablespoons per cup of each dye. So each pan, I'm gonna use 2 cups, 1 of each color. Alright, I'm going to begin pouring hot water into our dye cups. And I made sure not to use boiling water because I don't want to melt our red solo cups here. And I'm not too worried about measuring how much water I'm putting in here. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Mainly I'm just mixing it with water before I put it in the pan because I want to make sure the dye is mixed up and will spread evenly. I'm also going to pour some hot water into the pan as well. So I'm gonna pour the rest of this into these pans because we want to keep it wet as especially once I turn the burners on. We don't want to singe the yarn. Got some nice soup. I'm gonna put my gloves on. I know these gloves are meant for dishes, but here we are. Let's pour some dye. All right, I'm going to begin with this side here. I think I want to do something like, oh my gosh, it's kind of splattery. Try not to splish splash it all over the place, huh? Something tells me that this is gonna dye the yarn pretty easily, because this stuff is dark. And I'm gonna save a little bit in there in case I need to flip it and dye the other side. So let's grab our lighter blue. We're gonna attempt to fill in the blanks here. And now I'm going to turn the burners on the lowest setting. Okay, we just want it on low to maintain the heat that we have going on here. And I will kind of zhuzh it around in a moment, but I'm gonna get this one first. Okay, here's how it is looking after about 15 minutes. It is really, really dark, but I don't know if you can see, there's like, you can still see the different hues from like, because this is obviously was orange or pink. So it's kind of like this like dark red. I see some like greens kind of where I think it was yellow originally. The blue got a lot darker. There's some purple. So really just made everything darker right now. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my gloves on. I wanna give all of these a flip so it soaks the top side. And then I think I'm gonna cover it in tin foil and we're gonna keep it on low heat for another 30 minutes or so, and we'll just see what happens. Alrighty guys, I just covered them in aluminum foil. I'm gonna let it sit for 30 minutes and then I think we're gonna rinse. We're gonna start cleaning it out and seeing what happened. So I'll see you guys in a little while. Alright guys, I took the tinfoil off and turned off the heat about 20-25 minutes ago. It's cooled down now. So I'm going to take these into the bathroom and I'm going to begin the process of rinsing them in the bathtub. I'm gonna have the water running the whole time and I'm not gonna try to talk over the water, so you guys can enjoy this little montage of me rinsing out the yarn. And basically I will be just rinsing it out in water. I will be using a little bit of dish soap. This is just whatever dish soap we have. And I'm just going to keep rinsing it until the water runs clear. And from there, I believe I'm just going to hang it up to dry on the shower curtain. I don't have a spinner or a drying rack, so we're just gonna hang it up to dry and then we will update what the final product looks like tomorrow when it's all dry. So that's the plan. Okay guys, I have rinsed out 3 of our hanks of 6. The other 3 are still soaking in their dye bath. And I was hoping for a little bit more of a dramatic transformation. Now, it is a lot darker, definitely less pastel-y, but it's not crazy. I was hoping for a lot darker, honestly. But it's interesting because in this one, I have a lot more of this kind of like really dark, variegated, speckly stuff, and I really like it, but I didn't get a ton of it in the first 2. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually let the other ones soak maybe another 20 minutes, see if it makes it a little bit darker. I don't know if it's gonna make that big of a difference, but what I'm thinking is I didn't wash these with soap, and I need to before I crochet with them, obviously. But what I'm thinking is I'm gonna let them dry overnight because I don't want to do it today. But I think I'm going to dye them a second time. And instead of doing like a pan bath, I think what I'm gonna do is use like a paintbrush or like a sponge brush or something and like speckle on like undiluted dye onto it so we get more areas kind of like this. And that way it'll kind of break up the like color blocks, because right now it's like a stripy yarn and I want more like a variegated stripy yarn. So I think we could have some more fun experimenting with this, but I'm not gonna film myself washing out the other batch. I'm just gonna do it and then I'll show you guys the result. So I am gonna wait a little while and then I'll show you what happens. Alrighty guys, it is the next day. Now I will say I'm a little disappointed with our turnout. It's not as dark as I would like. It is darker, but I'm not quite there yet. So I want to try something new today. So this is experiment number 2. We're gonna try a different method. We're gonna use the same dye. I think I'm just gonna do 1 hank to start because I don't want to go through all the work for it to not work. You know what I mean? So let me go grab a hank from the bathroom. They're all hanging up right now. They've been kind of drip drying all night. We're gonna grab a hank and we are going to try our second experiment of this video. Okay, I pulled the hank that has, I think, the least amount of color. So this is the brightest one that was left, and it has the pinks, white, and yellow. And this is how it turned out. Okay, let me hold up. So this is the original color, and then this is the pink. There's not a huge difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and soak this in water because we need it wet to start dyeing. So I'm gonna soak it for 30 minutes. And then I think I'm gonna paint on the dye. I might dilute it just a teeny bit, but I'm just really gonna paint it onto the yarn with like a big paintbrush. And then I'm gonna wrap it in plastic wrap. And then I think we're gonna try steaming it. That was another way I saw people doing it online. So we're gonna try steaming it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all of that stuff ready. Okay, I'm going to suit up. I'm gonna be really careful not to get this dye anywhere. But I have had this yarn soaking for a little while. It's pretty well saturated, and I didn't squeeze out the yarn, but I drained it off. And in this pan, I have lined it with our plastic wrap. So we'll be able to wrap it up. So I'm just gonna transfer it over. We don't want all this water, I don't think. We want it wet. I don't know if we want it dripping. I think that's good. And I'm gonna kind of fan it out a little bit so we have more surface area to paint. Okay, that looks good. Let's get rid of this. Let me zoom you in. Okay, I have a paintbrush. If I had one, I would use like a foam brush, like a craft paint foam brush, but I don't. So this is what I'm gonna use. And I have our dye here. I mixed a little bit of both of the colors and then a little bit of warm water, and we're gonna just paint it. We're just gonna dabble and paint and soak it real good, and then we will steam and see what happens. Now I'm hoping that this very concentrated dye will kind of spread because since the yarn is wet, kind of bleed into the other sections, and we should hopefully get some kind of a maybe variegated effect within the yarn. I don't know, it's very experimental. We're just having fun with it and seeing what happens. Okay, I think we're gonna leave it here so we can go ahead and I'm just gonna kind of condense it a little bit, wrap it. Roll it. All right, here is our cinnamon roll yarn dye, and I'm gonna figure out a way we can steam this. Okay guys, this might be absolutely ridiculous, but I think I figured out a way to steam this. Now, I don't have a steamer or anything like that to use, but I do have this Ninja Foodie, which is like a slow cooker, but it has a steam option. So I'm gonna put it on low on the steam option because this thing gets really hot. And I don't have like a rack to elevate it, and I don't want to like directly put it in the water. So we are going to put our cinnamon roll dye yarn into a Ziploc. Also because I use this thing for food, and I don't want any of the dye touching anything that makes food, okay? So Ziploc bag, and we are going to elevate the Ziploc bag with the yarn in it with tin foil. So I've got this little spiral that I made, and then a little bowl plate thing, so that way none of the water gets up in there, just to protect everything. I know this is really silly, but I'm trying to use what I have because I don't want to go to the store to buy stuff. So this is what we're doing, and I'll let you know if it works out. So we need water. Okay, I put about 3 cups of water in there. I will be checking back as we work this up because it's gonna be in there for an hour. So I'm just gonna make sure every 15 minutes that we have enough water and that it's not causing problems, but I think this is gonna work because it's able to maintain a higher temperature than on the stove, but also it's less saturated than our pans. So I will check back in with you guys in a little bit and we'll see how it's going. Alrighty, so this has been cooking for an hour. No leakage, it doesn't look like, but I'm gonna put it on here to hopefully, oh my gosh, oh, it's very blue. Oh wow. Okay, interesting. I think this is gonna work, you guys. I think we did good here, look. As you can see, it is very blue. It definitely leaked. I'm glad I put it in a bag. I wonder if the plastic melted. I don't know. The Ziploc bag worked good though, so I'm going to let that cool way off and then we're gonna rinse it out. Okay, our dyed yarn has cooled down enough so I can touch it. I'm gonna grab gloves and we are going to begin rinsing it out. I'm gonna do it in the sink this time. Hopefully I don't splatter dye everywhere, but since I'm just doing one skein, we'll see how it goes. That's what I was worried about. Okay. Bathtub is better. This is what we've got here. I'm gonna hang it up and show you guys. Now this is a pretty impressive change. I've got it next to Dye Rinse 1 for comparison. So this is after 2 dyes. I do think the color definitely stayed a lot more with the steaming, but I think, like, I don't know if you can tell, but like the texture of the yarn did forego a little bit, and I'm curious to see what it will be like when it fully dries, because it's still wet right now, so it's hard to say, but like we got a lot of really dark coloring here, and I actually really like it. Like I would wear this, right? Opposed to before we had whites and orange and yellow. Now we have this kind of maroon and dark blue, some dark purples and some green. I'm very happy with how it's turning out. I am curious to see how the texture is affected through this process, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for some more of these hanks of yarn, just starting with my lightest ones. And I think I'm going to try to do 2 at a time for this next round and just see how that goes. But I think we'll do this one because it's already got like a lot of weird kind of splotchiness to it and a lot of light colors. And maybe we'll do this one. So we are gonna go ahead and do the same method this afternoon with these 2 as well. Okay guys, we officially have 3 of 6 dyed a second time. And looking in the viewfinder, it looks silly because it's like really dark and then there's like a weird light spot. But I actually, in person, really like the colors that we're getting here. And they're still darker than they will be just because they are still wet. But I love all the greens and the blues and like the maroons and then like the really dark blues and purples. It does feel really random right now looking at it like this, but I'm really curious to see how it's gonna look hanked up, caked up, and even worked up. So this evening I am going to dye these 3 with the same method, and then we are going to wait a day or 2 until they're fully dry and take a look at them then. So I will see you guys in a couple of days. Alrighty guys, it has been a couple of days. The yarn is dry and I put it into hanks, and you guys, I can't wait to show you this yarn. I am so happy with how this yarn turned out, you guys. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But is it unique and colorful and less pastel? Yes, yes it is. And I love that each hank is a little bit kind of individual in its own right. We pretty much have no more yellow left. All of the yellow turned into green, which I'm so excited for because I love green. But we still have some kind of original hues here mixed with some darker spots. And I think it's gonna look really cool once it's worked up. I actually have already picked out a pattern that I want to use this yarn for. It is I think it's called the open knit or the free knit sweater, and it's basically a knit sweater, but it's very loose knit and it's just kind of flowy, comfy, boho-esque. And I think this yarn is really gonna shine with a sweater pattern kind of like this. It kind of gives patchwork, chill, fall-esque. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's gonna look really good. But we have one more thing we need to do. Obviously we can't use the yarn in the hank form, so we are going to go ahead and cake it all up to see how it looks like in the cake form. And yeah, I'm actually really excited. Knitting the sweater is going to be a separate video, you guys, obviously, but we are gonna at least finish this yarn project together. And let me get set up and we are gonna wind us some yarn. Okay guys, I just pulled off our first ball. Wow. This is interesting, guys. Like wow. I'm really curious to see, because they're all gonna wind up differently because they're like different portions of the big cake. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cake up all of these. I'm not gonna film any more of it just because it's kind of a process, because it did get tangled a little bit. I've learned my lessons, okay? Next time I dye yarn, it's gonna go better. It's gonna go better. So I'm gonna cake these up and we will do a final reveal of our finished yarn. Alrighty guys, I finished winding up all of my cakes. It was kind of a struggle because they did get a little bit tangled, but I learned some lessons, so the next time I hand dye some yarn, I can hopefully do some better yarn management and not get it tangled up. Here is our final little stack. So we have six balls of yarn, and they are each individual and unique and very much what I was going for. Honestly, it's giving fall. Okay, it's giving toned down but still colorful, and I love it. I love it. I am so excited to start knitting up a sweater with this. It's gonna have to wait a little while. I told myself I'm only gonna have one sweater project going at a time, and I am currently working on a tutorial for you guys of a crochet sweater, so I need to finish that and then we can start this one. But just know I am really excited to see how this knits up, and I will definitely be making another video on it so I can show you guys how it turns out. But anyways, I just want to thank you guys for watching this kind of chaotic experimental vlog. It's definitely different than my normal content, but I had a lot of fun, and it's artsy, it's fiber artsy, it's yarn. I mean, what's not to like? So if you made it this far in the video, go ahead and drop a yarn ball emoji in honor of our first hand-dyed yarn together. How exciting. Let me know if you want to see more hand dyeing yarn in the future. I think it is something that I would like to do on occasion when I have some inspiration. I would love to try dyeing more natural fibers because acrylic was a bit tough, but you know what? We turned it into something, and hopefully we can make a piece of clothing out of it, and that would be really cool. So anyways, that's all from me today. I hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, my friends.